Hello everybody, Rick here, and we're down at the barn tonight, and it's going to be a little bit different than some of my other videos. Uh, we're going to be talking about deer hunting on Fort Knox, Kentucky. The reason I'm doing this is because I often see on some of the sites out there, Kentucky public land hunting and hunting in Kentucky and deer hunting in Kentucky and stuff like that, where people are always asking where's a good place to hunt, specifically any public land. And Fort Knox is in fact public land hunting, but I tell you, the state of Kentucky itself has a lot of public land hunting. And it's not easy to get in on private land all the time. If you have family, maybe some friends, acquaintances over the years or something like that, you might get lucky and get invited. But for some good hunting and for opportunity to get out and be able to scout an area and to be able to hunt some public land, that's probably the best choice for most of us. I'm fortunate enough to have a private farm that I can hunt on, but I certainly understand what it's like not to have that same privilege. We started our deer camp down in Beech Grove in 1984, so this is what, 80, 90, I think it's our 40th year of deer hunting down in Beech Grove. But there was a long period of time when we didn't have rights to hunt down there, and I found myself going back to Fort Knox. And there's a lot of myths about hunting on Fort Knox, and what I want to try to do is go over the how-tos. How can somebody, whether you're military, retired military, DOD civilian, active duty, retired reservist, or a veteran, or a disabled veteran, or just the average Joe civilian out there with no military ties whatsoever, not falling in any of those categories, what you have to go through to be able to hunt. I've got a cheat sheet here I'm going to go with, and I'm kind of going, it's a combination of between the Kentucky Fish and Game Guide and the, which I'll show you a picture of it here shortly. They usually come out about this time of the year in August, and they'll run all the way through the first part of March. I think the season, actually hunting season, or your license, will end in March. March the 1st. So and then the Fort Knox regulation for hunting hunting and fishing on Fort Knox, which is a 34-page document. And I'm certainly not going to go through that whole thing, but I'll bring out some key points as it pertains to deer hunting, predominantly deer hunting with a gun. Although a lot of the same rules apply for archery season and all that. So Kentucky has a lot of public land to hunt on, and a lot of folks think that all the public land in Kentucky is managed by the Kentucky Department of Fish and Game, and that in fact isn't quite true. In fact, most of the area most of your wildlife management areas are managed by the federal government. Areas such as the Daniel Boone National Forest, land between the lakes. You got Kentucky military bases, here at Fort Knox, Fort Campbell, Bluegrass Army Depot, and you have some private companies that allow access to their properties during hunting season, such as Peabody Coal Company and Big Rivers and places like that. The majority of the wildlife management land is actually owned by the federal entities, like I was saying, the Corps of Engineers, the U.S. Forest Service, or private properties. Lake Cumberland Wildlife Management Area, as an example, is located on Corps of Engineer property, and the Redbird Wildlife Management is also situated within the Daniel Boone National Forest, and it's a U.S. Forest Service property. The Boone Forest Lands is a good example of a wildlife management that's on private property. So some of the statistics, there's over 127 public hunting areas that consist of over 1,664,008 acres of public hunting area in Kentucky. 89 wildlife management areas that consist of 521,288 acres, and the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources owned or co-owned 161,875 acres. So you could see 161,000 acres out of 1.6 million acres is just a small dent in it. So I'm not sure how public availability of public land rates with other states, but if you do, leave a comment down below and let everybody know what it's like in your state. What I do know is there's plenty of places in Kentucky for you to hunt. You just have to reach out there and search it, do a little bit of research and all that. As I mentioned before, the Kentucky Hunting and Trapping Guide has an excellent section that's dedicated to public hunting here in Kentucky, and it breaks the wildlife management areas down into 5 different regions. The Purchase region, which has 18 management areas, and they include the Charles River National Wildlife Management Refuge, Fort Campbell, Land Between the Lakes, and Reelfoot National Refuge. That's mostly in your western, southwestern state counties of Kentucky. The Green River region has 15 wildlife management areas, and that includes plus the Fort Knox Bluegrass Army Depot, the Green River region has 15 wildlife management areas, and that includes Fort Knox. And so you're now probably pretty much in central Kentucky part of it. You got the Bluegrass region. It consists of 17 wildlife management areas, and it includes the Bluegrass Army Depot. Now you're looking at around Lexington, a little bit east, maybe a little bit northeast, or the middle part of the state down to the south rather. You have the Northeast region, which has 20 wildlife management areas, and it also includes the Daniel Boone National Forest and the Ohio River National Wildlife Refuge. And then last, you have the Southeast region, consisting of 45 wildlife management areas, and it too covers a portion of the Daniel Boone National Forest. So it kind of gives you, when you look at the Kentucky Fish and Game Guide, it'll have a map there of all the regions and all the wildlife management areas and what they offer as far as hunting. Deer hunting and stuff like that. So not all of them provide the same opportunities as others, but tonight we're gonna specifically talk about the Fort Knox Military Reservation, go over some of the do's and don'ts, and kind of dispel some of the myths that might be out there. because there's a lot of folks that just, number one, don't believe you can hunt here, and that's certainly not the case. First of all, the installation itself consists of over 109,000 acres, or you're talking about 170 square miles, and it covers 3 different counties in the states: Hardin County, Bullitt County, and Meade County. It's broken down into 101 hunting areas, which consist of 67,563 acres. So just a reminder that there's a lot of the installation is off limits, and it's off limits either A, because it's inside the cantonment area, although there are some exceptions there we'll talk about, and but when you get into some of the areas due to unexploded ordnance and their proximity to firing ranges, they don't allow any hunting on it. So the rules pertaining to hunting and fishing on Fort Knox, they're in accordance with the laws of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. So nothing in this video will be interpreted to permit acts contrary to either state or federal statutes. One exception, though, on Fort Knox is any deer that's harvested on Fort Knox doesn't count against your state bag limit. And you'll find that many of the other wildlife management areas, your state tag, it applies to the state limit, and they're not bonus deer. Before I go any further, though, I want to make the following disclaimer: that the contents of this video regarding deer hunting on Fort Knox or the Commonwealth of Kentucky are solely for entertainment purposes only. It's not to be a word-for-word reading of the U.S. Army or Fort Knox regulation and or the Kentucky Revised Statute or the Kentucky Administration Regulation in its entirety, and should not be used as such. Even the Kentucky Fish and Game Guide is a summary of those regulations, and there's a link in the that you can go to, and I'll try to have that at the in the remarks of the video here, to where you can actually go to that link and see the statutes and stuff for hunting on Fort Knox, and that's what you should always do. I also have a link to the Kentucky Fort Knox regulation, and I believe I already mentioned it's 34 pages long, and it covers everything. It covers anything that you need to know for hunting on Fort Knox, hunting or fishing, but again, specifically we're going to talk deer hunting. So the exact wordings will be in that link. So are civilians allowed to deer hunt on Fort Knox? Absolutely. Now comes the but or the however. There are categories of hunters and tiers within those categories. First, we have military hunters, and then we have non-military hunters. Our military hunters consist of any active duty retired military member of the reserve components, Department of Army, civilian, federal employees, or retired from Fort Knox and their family members. Under military category, there are 2 tiers. Tier 1 is your active duty military members and members of the reserve component and their family members. Tier 2 is your disabled American veterans with 50% or more service-connected disability as designated by the VA. It also includes retired military, including the reserve components, current or retired Department, Army, civilian, federal employees, and their family members. Non-military hunters consist of Tier 3, which includes members of the general public authorized by the commander to enter the installation for the purpose of hunting. And although I couldn't find it specifically in the regulations, those non-military members that commander would most likely not authorize to enter the regulation are the same as those for entering at the main gates, the three main gates on Fort Knox. You have your Chaffee Gate, Brandenburg Gate, and the Wilson Gate, and those are any felons, if you have an active warrant, expired driver's license, expired registration, no auto insurance, you're intoxicated, you're on drugs or anything like that. And it's important to know that anytime going through the gates or while on the installation, you are subject to a search of your vehicles at any time. So when we look at family members include a spouse of a military hunter. The dependent parents of a military hunter is defined by the IRS regulations. Dependency test proof must be furnished. Military hunters, child who is natural or adopted, single and under the age of 21 years of age. So that pretty much covers that. So now we know who can and cannot hunt on Fort Knox. Let's look at what we should do next and determine what kind of weapon we can use while deer hunting and how to get it on the installation legally. For gun hunters, shotguns only, shotguns and muzzleloaders I should say, but shotguns of 12 gauge, 16 and 20 gauge with a single projectile slug. Repeating shotguns must be plugged to hold a maximum of 3 slugs. Over and under shotguns cannot be used if one of the tubes is rifled, such as a 20 gauge with a 22 caliber. You can't use it because the 22 caliber is a rifle and not authorized. Muzzle loading rifles, 38 caliber minimum to 58 caliber maximum, and muzzle loading shotguns with a single projectile slug. There's no restriction on the priming methods. Smokeless powder, however, is prohibited, and powder charges are limited to a maximum of 100 grains. A maximum of 10 slugs or powder charges is permitted during each hunting day. And again, that's something that you can be subject to inspection, and if you have more than that, then you'll be asked to leave. For archery hunters, longbows, recurves, and compound bows that do not have a device that holds the arrow at full or partial draw without the aid from the archer. Broadheads must be at least 7/8 inch wide and razor sharp, and arrows will not be fitted with barbed broadheads or treated with any type of chemicals or any attachment with chemicals that may not be used or possessed on Fort Knox. Crossbows are prohibited except for handicapped hunters who have a valid hunting method exemption crossbow permit from the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, as well as hunters under the age of 16 years or over 65 years of age. If you're under 16 or over 60 or over 65 and you have that exemption for crossbow permit, you can hunt with a crossbow on Fort Knox. Absolutely no unauthorized guns or ammunition will be permitted in the hunting areas or within vehicles of the hunting area. And you can have no more than one type of hunting system in your possession at one time. So you can't have a shotgun and a recurve bow, for example. And handguns are strictly prohibited. They are not authorized. So we know who can hunt, and now we know what type of weapon you can hunt with. How do we get that firearm on the installation legally? Well, to tell you the truth, that's a whole nother video. But then really not complicated as long as you're not a felon, you don't have any active warrants, expired license, and show up at the registration office intoxicated. You're going to have to register your weapon, and I know that's an issue with a lot of folks out there, and it's the rule. And if you have an issue with it, then there's plenty of other public hunting in the state of Kentucky you'll just have to deal with. But I'll leave in the link below all the information on firearms registration, as well as gate access information, and along with the phone number to the visitor center. It's not that hard. You don't want to bring your weapon to the registration office, but you do need to bring the information with you. You know, the make, model, the gauge, you know, different things like that. And the guards that work the Welcome Center are well versed on how to do the registration. You fill it out, and then it goes out, and it'll take a little while to process it. So it's something that you want to do quite early, which is really why I'm trying to get this video out as quick as I can, because we're already in the middle part of August, and as permits come available, I know archery permits are available now. I didn't check today to see if gun permits are available, but as permits are available, you want to be able to get your permits and start being able to scout areas and stuff like that. So we know who can deer hunt, and what weapon we can use for deer hunting, and the fact that we have to register our weapons, and how to access the installation. Let's look at what the fees are for permits. So in addition to an annual Kentucky state hunting license and a deer permit, a Fort Knox archery and/or gun hunting permit is required for all personnel. So you're going to have your state hunting license and your state deer permit. The license is going to run you about $27 for a resident and $150 for a non-resident. One day and 7 day hunting license are not valid for deer hunting in the state of Kentucky. The annual youth license, available for all ages 12 through 15, costs $6 for a resident and $10 for a non-resident. The statewide deer permit, which allows you to harvest up to 4 deer, depending on what zone you're in, runs $35 for resident and $185 for non-resident. The youth permit, again, that's the one for ages 12 through 15. It too allows for 4 deer. Will cost $10 for a resident and $15 for a non-resident. Additional deer permits are also available, and again, that depends on what zone you're in. If you're in a zone 1, that's pretty much unlimited deer. It's $15 for both resident and non-resident, and you're allowed 2 additional deer with that. And you can buy as many additional deer permits as you want, provided and use them in those zone 1 counties. And you'll see those zones in the Kentucky Fish and Game brochure. A Fort Knox deer archery and/or gun permit is going to run you $17 for an E1 through E6, and $33 for all other active duty personnel and their dependents. For all others, it's $36 for a deer archery and $36 for a deer gun permit. So cost-wise, the only other thing that you may need to purchase to deer hunt on Fort Knox is a color map, and it'll run you $5. However, you can download the map on your phone, and it'll be free. So the bottom line cost of deer hunting on Fort Knox is going to run a Kentucky resident $79 for active duty military E1 through E6, $95 for all other active duty military, and $98 for all other categories. And again, the breakdown of that, the state license is $27, the deer permit is $35, the Fort Knox deer permit is $17 for E1 through E6, $33 for all other military, and $36 for all others. For non-resident, you're looking at about $371, and that includes a state license of $150, a deer permit for $185, and a Fort Knox deer permit for $36. Fort Knox permits may be issued to Kentucky resident senior citizens age 65 or any of those that are 100% service-connected disabled veterans, military category dependents under the age, and military category dependents age 16 and under for tiers 1 and 2. So most other options with sportsman and youth or senior/disabled license, however, note that the sportsman's license are not available for non-residents. So speaking of our youth hunters, Kentucky, in my opinion, is a very pro-youth, pro-friendly state, resident and non-resident as well. That non-resident youth can hunt in Kentucky for free if they're under 12, and for $25 if they're between the ages of 12 to 15, and that's not bad at all. In fact, I've watched many youth videos and some of your bigger hunting shows where they will film youth hunts, and I wouldn't begin to venture what the number of non-resident youth hunters are in the state, but I know there's people that do take advantage of that. It's not a bad deal at all in the state of Kentucky. So that pretty much sums it up as far as who can hunt, what you can hunt with, how to get your weapon on the installation, and what the fees are and going to be and all that. So I was hoping to be able to get a member of the Kentucky, or not Kentucky, but a member of the Fort Knox Fish and Game to do a Q&A with me, and if I do, I'll do another video with a part 2 on that, because I think it's also important that you understand why they have some of the other rules they have, as far as they limit the number of hunters per area. So you can go down to Peabody Wildlife Management Area, for example, and park your car somewhere off the side of the road and walk out in the woods, and come daylight you can have 20 or 30 other people within sight of you. Fort Knox is pretty good about not doing that, although there are some people who are new to hunting and don't venture too far away from the main trails and roads. You do have to stay on hardball roads and gravel roads. You can't drive down dirt paths, fire breaks, or dirt trails or anything like that. You're not authorized to use four-wheelers on Fort Knox unless you have that disabled permit that will allow you, and then it's only you. So if you're hunting with your buddy, you can't throw him on the back and haul him to his deer stand and then head to yours. Trail cameras are authorized on Fort Knox. You have to have your name on them. Climbing deer stands, You can use ladder stands or climbing stands as long as they don't damage the trees. No permanent nail on trees and building wooden deer stands up against trees and stuff like that. You need to have your name on it, and you'll want to, as soon as you're done hunting or the hunting season is over, you want to make sure you go in and get your stand out of there. If you're hunting from a deer blind, you're going to have orange on top of the blind to where it can be seen from all sides. And most of that is the same with the state of Kentucky as well. So you must wear hunter orange while you're gun hunting or during gun hunt seasons. For example, if you can hunt with archery, you can hunt with a recurve or a longbow or whatever during the gun season. But if it's a gun season and you're bow hunting, you must still wear an orange vest and an orange hat, and it's got to be solid orange and not any camouflaged orange or anything like that, as some of the other states might allow. So again, go to the links below. If you got any specific questions, throw them in the comments, and if I don't know them, I'll definitely research it and find it for you. And I'm just hoping that this gives you a little bit of insight about what it's like, you know, the do's and don'ts and how to get on Fort Knox to do some gun hunting. It's a quality management system. So there's some good bucks on here, and I'll try to have some pictures at the end of the video as well. But it's a quality management, meaning that you need, if you're gun hunting or bow hunting, the bucks must be 12-inch spread, which is typically outside of the ears. The only exception to that is during the youth season. During the youth season, they're allowed to shoot a buck that's not within that 12-inch spread. So I know that's a lot of information in a very short time here, but I didn't want to sit here and bore you too bad with it. My cigar of choice tonight is a Brickhouse Maduro. It was gifted to me by my good buddy Zach, who you may have seen in my video on kayak fishing in Saunders Spring. If you haven't, check out that video. And my beer of choice tonight is a Coors Banquet. So again, if you got any other questions at all, don't be afraid to ask. Throw them down in the comments, and I'll get back with you. So good luck. Happy hunting. It's just around the corner. And Weitzman's Heil.